welcome to this session where I'll be talking about bullying. Bullying in the context that it is your child who is hurting others, right? I know that we get, we talk about bullying, someone else bullying your child and all of that. But we're going to flip the switch and look at it from the angle of your child being the one who's hurting others. What would you do if your child is hurting other people? My name is Sandra Oluwadare, and I am a parenting coach and a child development consultant, and I'm the founder of Winning in Parenting. This topic is so important, especially because children have just resumed school, and we want to ensure that we are also playing our part as parents to equip our children to get to that point where they know that it is wrong to hurt other people. So I want you to just go along and enjoy this session. If you have questions, do well to leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to respond to your questions. So I know it can be really heartbreaking to discover that your child is bullying others. But one thing you need to remember is you are not alone. And there are things you can actually do, right? But first, for starters, we need to understand why the child is being a bully. Why is this child intentionally hurting others or unintentionally hurting others? We need to understand that there's always a root cause for every behavior. Whether the behavior is positive or negative, there is a root cause for it. And we also need to understand that behavior is communication. Behavior is a response to something. So if a child is bullying another child, that action is a response to something, and you need to identify that what it is. You need to take it a step further and move away from handling that situation from the surface. You need to take a deep dive into the root cause of that response, right? And so I'm going to be outlining a few reasons why children bully others. The first one that I want to talk about is the fact that they might be feeling insecure or powerless. We know how it is when sometimes the way we relate with our children, can be disempowering. So we find that sometimes parents use some sort of language or labels to identify their children. Because a child is not doing well at school, they begin to say the child is dull, not smart. Because a child is taking what does not belong to him, they begin to label the child a thief. Because the child is not speaking the truth, they begin to say the child is a liar. Now, these things have a way of leaving imprints in the heart of the child because children are very impressionable. So as you use such words that are not empowering on the child, it begins to have an impact on the child's self-esteem. Those words or actions like that diminish the self-esteem of the child. They begin to feel incapable. They begin to feel like they are not good enough, like they are not worthy, they are not special, and all of that. And the thing is, when such feelings, right, begin to become ingrained into the child, it affects the way the child sees other children. When the child sees other children, he wants to prove that he is powerful. And so he begins to go the extra mile to do that, even if he needs to step on someone else's toes to achieve that. He just wants to prove that, you know what, even if they don't feel that I'm all that at home, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of doing at school or anywhere else, right? So when children feel insecure, when they feel powerless, there are tendencies that they can become bullies, right? Because all of these insecurities might lead to them struggling in one area or the other, maybe academically, socially, or even at home, right? And bullying may become a misguided attempt for them to feel stronger, right? For them to feel like they are in control. It's something they do to try to elevate themselves while putting someone else down. So if you notice that a child is bullying another child, you want to look inwards to see if this child is feeling insecure or powerless. The second thing you want to take note of is the empathy state of this child. Does this child have empathy? Most of the children who bully other children do not really understand what it means to be in the other person's shoes. They don't consider the other person's feelings, right? They do not, they are not able to place themselves in that position where you can say, okay, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. They are not thinking that if this person does this thing to me, how would I feel? That's because they don't have empathy, right? Children who bully other children struggle with empathy. They may not be able to see things from the victim's perspective. They don't understand how that person is going to feel. They don't understand how hurtful their actions will be, right? So as a result of this lack of empathy, they become aggressive towards the other person and they just go ahead to hurt the other person, whether with their words or with their actions. Now, the third thing you need to watch out for if a child is being a bully is if that child is modeling that behavior. If that child is actually learning that behavior from someone, right? Bullying can be a learned behavior because children are like sponges and they are able to absorb the things they see around them, right? So if a child witnesses bullying, maybe at home or with any other adult, whether they're it's the child's parents, siblings, or whoever has an influence over the child, or maybe the child's environment, they begin to think that such behaviors are acceptable, right? They begin to normalize such behaviors when they are interacting with other people, right? So you want to check to see if this child is actually learning this behavior from anyone, right? So you want to look at the actions of the parents, the siblings, people in the child's circle to see if there's anyone normalizing aggression that is making the children begin to see it as a normal behavior. That is something very important you need to take note of. Then the fourth thing I want to highlight here is the need for attention. Sometimes the children who bully actually are in dire need of attention. No one is paying attention to them, or even if they receive attention, it is minimal, and these children are craving for more, especially if their love language is quality time, right? So you want to also look deep within to understand how much attention this child is actually getting. Trust me, when a child wants to seek attention, they can become bullies, right? They can become bullies. They can begin to try to control other people just because they want attention. So when it comes to bullying, before we go on to begin to say, oh, this child is this or that, we also need to, like I said earlier, probe further to know if this behavior is learned or if this child is actually suffering some form of lack of attention, right? Or if this child lacks empathy, or if this child is feeling insecure or powerless. This is so important. Now that we know this, how do you respond to a child who is bullying another child? The first thing you want to do is to stay calm. I know that it is very likely that you yell or hit the child, right? But you need to avoid doing that. You need to avoid that. Avoid yelling, avoid shaming the child. You need to first create a safe space for communication. The child first needs to feel safe. Because if the child doesn't feel safe, that's even a pointer to why the child became a bully in the first place. So the child has to feel safe. You have to create that safe space for communication between you and the child. Then the second thing you need to do is to listen. Some parents just listen to judge. Some parents listen to lecture the child. But are we really listening to understand? Some parents are listening just to interrupt, to know where to say, hey, I told you so, right? But we need to move from that position and begin to listen to understand. We need to begin to actively listen to our children such that you can even capture their thoughts when they are not saying anything, such that you can hear what they are not even saying, right? So you need to hear their perspective without judgment, because what is going on in their lives at that particular point might be what is causing that action. So you want to calm yourself and get the true picture of what is going on with that child. The third thing you want to do is to take time out to explain the impact of that behavior to the child. You want to make the child understand that that behavior is hurtful, and that if someone behaves that way to him, he wouldn't like it, right? So you want to put him in that position so that he can see clearly that hurting others is not a good thing to do. You can also explain this to him by using role play, right? So you put him in a scenario where he is being bullied by you. It's just a role play, right? Where he's being bullied by you, and then he begins to see the impact of that action. That is a good way to respond when you find out that your child is being a bully. The next thing you want to do is to set clear expectations. How do you help your child get out of this action that is negative, right? You want to outline the consequences of being a bully, right? You want to let the child know the boundaries that he has. You want to let him understand that whenever you do this, this is what is going to happen. This is what I'm going to do to you. You are not going to get away with it because it's a negative behavior, right? Now, when you do this, the child knows that there's a borderline that I must not cross, right? It's not just you trying to correct the child, but you're also holding the child accountable to understand that, hey, this is what's going to happen if you keep doing this, right? Now, the next thing you want to do, which is the last thing I'm going to highlight for now, is to focus on solutions. Move away from calling the child names or saying, oh, this child is bringing disgrace and all of that. The next line of action is, what are the solutions that will be put in place based on the first things that I outlined that could cause that behavior in children? You now want to take time to introspect and ask yourself, which of these things am I doing? Am I the one leading this child on? Is this child actually learning this behavior from home or from any one of us? You want to begin to think that way so that you can come up with solutions to help the child. For example, if you are aggressive as a parent, you want to begin to work on regulating your emotions, managing your anger, learning to resolve conflicts peacefully, and also showing empathy. Now, how can you help your child change? You know what to do. You've identified what may have caused the child to become a bully. Now, how can you help the child? The first thing you want to do is to reinforce the child. You want to positively reinforce the child. Call out the child when they treat other people nicely. It's not only when they do things that are not right that you call them out. When they do things that are right, try to call them out. Let them know that you see them, catch them being good. The next thing you want to do is to model empathy. You can't give what you don't have. You cannot expect empathy from your child when you don't show empathy, because parenting is leadership, right? What you are expecting from your child, you should be able to model it so that they can learn from watching you, because children learn more by what they see than what you say. So you need to begin to walk the talk. You need to practice what you preach. You need to live out the example that you are asking them to follow. All right. So you need to begin to model empathy. You need to show them compassion. Treat them respectfully. The fact that they are your children doesn't mean you can just barge into their room. It doesn't mean you can just talk to them, in a disrespectful manner. They are humans as well. They are not your mini-me, right? They are a whole human. They have a whole destiny, right? So we also need to learn to show them compassion and treat them respectfully. When we treat them respectfully, they will learn to treat us respectfully as well. The next thing you want to do is to manage your anger. most of these things is really about us, the parents, not even the child. Most parents are not able to regulate their emotions. They are not able to comport themselves when their emotions are all over the place. Now, how do you want a calm child? How do you want a child who will self-regulate when you as a parent cannot self-regulate? So we need to lead by example. We need to learn anger management techniques. We need to learn how to pause. We need to learn how to, just get a hold of our emotions so that we are not flaring up because they have done this or they have done that, and we're just flaring up, and at the end of the day we just mess things up and we don't even give them something good to copy. We don't show them something good to emulate. So we need to work on ourselves, our emotions especially, so that we show them a good example. Now, all of these things that I have outlined are some of the things you can do to help your child who has been found to be bullying other children. But most of all, I want you to understand that as you relate with your child every day, you are programming the child. What you see now is what you programmed into the child. And what you are doing now is what you're going to see years down the line. So what is going to be your response to this? How intentional would you be as you relate with your child? Please understand that what you put in is what you get out. If you raise your child such that there are so many gaps in the child's life, it's not just the child who will pay for it. You would be a part of the reward as well. So I want to encourage you to take time out to put these things into practice, right? It's not about hearing, it's about implementing. Just a little here and a little there. And before you know it, you're building a solid foundation to raise a wholesome and well-balanced child. I hope you found this helpful. I want you to hit the subscribe button. And if you have questions you'd like me to answer, please do well to drop them in the comments. I'll be happy to respond. And if you're not following Winning in Parenting across social media, please, you want to do that to get more insightful content on parenting. Once again, my name is Sandra Oluwadare, and parenting coach and a child development consultant, the founder of Winning in Parenting, where we equip parents to raise wholesome children who would make a formidable impact in the world. Thank you for listening. It's bye for now.